Welcome to episode 1 of the book review series with Seek and Evolve. Today we're embarking on a deep dive into a book that honestly has really reshaped how countless individuals approach self-improvement, James Clear's Atomic Habits. Our mission here is pretty straightforward. Distill the absolute core concepts, the most actionable steps, and maybe most importantly, the fascinating science behind why some habits miraculously stick.
And others just poof, vanish.
Exactly.
And it really is, I think, the perfect fit for our Seek and Evolve mission. Our entire focus is on supporting the growth of the whole human,
Right.
Through honest education and conscious practices.
Right.
And this book offers incredibly practical tools for, nurturing the body, clarifying the mind, balancing emotion, and awakening energy. It's really designed to empower you, our listeners, with the knowledge to live with clarity, intention, and purpose. It's about more than just doing, really.
It's about becoming.
It is. It's about becoming.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the beauty of this deep dive, I think, is that we're giving you that shortcut. Instead of wading through the entire book, hopefully you'll walk away with immediate applicable strategies, the essential wisdom, all without feeling, bogged down.
Avoiding that information overload.
Yes. So let's unpack this. Let's start with what I found to be one of the most profound shifts James Clear introduces, moving beyond just setting goals.
Right. And what's truly fascinating here is Clear's concept of the Plateau of Latent Potential. He uses this brilliant analogy of an ice cube. You could heat it from, say, 25 degrees Fahrenheit all the way up to 31.
And nothing happens visually.
Nothing visibly happens. It's still a solid ice cube.
Yeah.
But all that energy, all that effort, it isn't wasted. It's being stored up.
Mm-hmm.
The real noticeable transformative change, the melting happens suddenly right at 32 degrees.
That's the core insight, isn't it? We pour in effort day after day, and we don't see immediate results. It's incredibly easy to get frustrated and just, give up.
Mm-hmm.
Then, when someone finally does break through, we call it an overnight success.
Mm-hmm.
But what Clear shows us is that it's the culmination of all that consistent, unseen work, those stored degrees, that happens long before any progress seems apparent.
Right. It's about having the belief and maybe the grit not to stop before you hit that melting point.
Yeah, the grit.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it leads us directly to the power of identity-based habits. This is a real game changer. Behavior that is incongruent with your self-identity, it just won't last. It can't.
Okay, explain that a bit more.
Well, if you say you want more money, but fundamentally identify as someone who maybe consumes rather than creates, you'll always be pulled towards spending.
Right.
If you desire better health, but you prioritize comfort in your self-image, you'll naturally lean towards relaxing over training. It's about a fundamental shift in who you are, not just what you want to achieve.
So it's not simply setting a goal like, I want to lose 10 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
It's about internally declaring, I am an athlete, or I am a healthy person.
Yeah.
That internal shift sounds incredibly powerful, but what's the biggest hurdle people face in actually believing I am that person, especially when those early results are so slow?
That's where the Plateau of Latent Potential comes right back in, actually. The hurdle is that gap between the effort you put in and the visible outcome. Clear emphasizes that the ultimate intrinsic motivation, the real driver, is when a habit becomes part of your identity.
Okay.
It's one thing to say, I'm the type of person who wants this. It's something very different and far more powerful to say, I'm the type of person who is this.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. The more pride you genuinely feel in an aspect of your identity, whether it's your fitness, your knitting, your professional craft.
Whatever it is.
Right. The more motivated you'll be to maintain the habits associated with it. When that pride is involved, you'll fight tooth and nail to uphold those behaviors.
So here's an actionable step then for you listening to begin this shift. Every single action you take is like a vote for the type of person you wish to become. Think of it as this quiet, continuous election happening inside you.
I like that analogy. A vote.
Yeah. And meaningful change doesn't demand radical, earth-shattering shifts right away. Instead, small habits consistently provide evidence of a new identity. So if you aspire to be a writer, each time you sit down and write a page, no matter how imperfect.
You're casting a vote. You are a writer in that moment.
Exactly.
And that's a crucial distinction that I think many miss. Each time you practice the violin, even just for 5 minutes, you are a musician. It simplifies the path. It's a two-step process, really. First, clearly decide the type of person you want to be. What do you want to embody? What principles?
Get clear on that first.
Yes. Second, prove it to yourself with small, consistent wins. The profound message here is that habits aren't fundamentally about having something.
Like achieving an external outcome.
Right.
Yeah.
They are about becoming someone.
That makes so much sense. Okay, now let's unpack this further into the underlying science, that how habits actually form. Clear breaks down every habit, good or bad, into a consistent four-step pattern. Cue, craving, response, and reward. Your brain, he explains, runs through these steps in the exact same order every single time. It's like the silent backbone of all our routines.
Think of your brain as an incredibly efficient prediction machine.
Okay.
The cue is the initial trigger, a piece of information from your environment that predicts a potential reward. Your brain is constantly scanning, looking for these signals. Then comes the craving. And this isn't just desire, it's the anticipation of that reward. This is where dopamine...
feel-good chemical.
Well, yeah, the feel-good neurotransmitter comes heavily into play, driving that motivational wanting. The response is the actual behavior you perform, the habit itself.
Doing the thing.
Doing the thing. And finally, the reward is the satisfaction or pleasure you get that closes the loop, teaching your brain whether to remember and repeat that action in the future. And the key is, if any one of these stages is insufficient, that behavior just won't become a solidified habit. It won't be repeated consistently.
So if we understand this loop, it suggests we can kind of hijack it or optimize it to build good habits and dismantle bad ones. Which brings us neatly to Clear's 4 laws of behavior change. The first law, make it obvious.
Make it obvious.
The science behind this is pretty compelling. Our vision is incredibly powerful. I read something like 10 million of our 11 million sensory receptors are for sight.
Wow.
And half of our brain's entire resources are used just on vision. So visual cues are understandably huge catalysts for behavior.
Huge, indeed. And it's not just about remembering to do it. Before you can even make a habit obvious, behavior change always starts with awareness. So many of our automatic habits just operate completely below our conscious radar.
Right, we don't even notice them.
Exactly. Clear suggests powerful yet simple tools like a habit scorecard, where you actually list out your daily actions, or even pointing and calling like a train conductor.
Verbally saying it out loud.
Yeah, verbally acknowledging actions. These practices can pull a non-conscious habit into your awareness, making you mindful of what you're truly doing.
Okay, that makes sense. Then, to really set a new habit in motion, Clear suggests using implementation intentions. This is simply creating a crystal clear plan for when and where a habit will occur. The formula is beautifully direct. Behavior at time and location.
Super specific.
Super specific. And there's this fascinating study in Great Britain on exercise. The group that used this specific intentional plan, 91% of them exercised at least once per week.
91%.
Compared to only 35-38% in other groups. That's a massive difference just from being precise about your plan.
That precision is key. And building on that, we have habit stacking. This is about tying a new desired behavior to something you already do each day, kind of leveraging existing momentum.
Okay, piggybacking.
Exactly. The formula is, after current habit, I will new habit. So, for example, after I sit down to dinner, I will say one thing I'm grateful for.
Simple.
Or, after I get into bed, I will give my partner a kiss. You're linking a new desired action to an established automatic routine.
Got it. And finally, under Make It Obvious, we get into environment design. This simply means making the cues for your good habits incredibly obvious and present in your surroundings.
Right.
Like leaving a water bottle on your kitchen counter if you want to drink more water, or placing your running shoes right by the door.
Making the cue unmissable. And conversely, habits can be much easier to change in a new environment because you escape those subtle, ingrained triggers.
Ah, interesting.
Think about maybe going to a different coffee shop to work if your usual spot is full of distractions that cue procrastination. Or consider the really striking historical example, the Vietnam War heroin addiction study.
Oh yeah, I've heard about this.
When soldiers returned home, away from an environment just filled with drug triggers, something like 9 out of 10 spontaneously eliminated their addiction almost overnight.
Wow, just like that.
The context changed so radically that it removed the need for constant, exhausting self-control. It really highlights how much our environment dictates our choices without us even realizing it.
It's incredible how much our surroundings shape us. Okay, let's move to the second law. Make it attractive. If making it obvious gets us started, what's the secret to making these new behaviors something we actually look forward to doing?
Yeah, the motivation piece.
This is where the dopamine-driven feedback loop comes in, and here's where it gets really interesting. Dopamine is released not just when we experience pleasure,
But powerfully in anticipation of it.
right, This anticipation is what truly drives our motivation.
That's a crucial distinction. We often think of dopamine as the pleasure chemical, but it's more accurately the wanting chemical. Think of that infamous mouse experiment. They got a dopamine hit each time they poked their nose in a box. Within minutes, they were poking 800 times an hour. Not necessarily because poking was so fun.
But because they anticipated the hit.
Exactly. The intense anticipation of the hit. Humans aren't so different. The average slot machine player spins maybe 600 times an hour.
Wow.
It powerfully illustrates how compelling that anticipation is and how we can try to harness it.
So how do we harness this dopamine anticipation? The first actionable step Clear offers is temptation bundling. The formula is quite elegant. After habit I need, I will habit I want.
Pairing them up.
Yes, you pair something you need to do with something you genuinely want to do. For example, after I say one thing I'm grateful for, I will allow myself to read the news.
Or, after I make 3 client outreach calls, then I will watch 20 minutes of my favorite sports show.
Bundling the need with the want makes sense.
Another incredibly powerful force is social influence. It sounds simple, maybe obvious, but joining a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior is just transformative.
Like surrounding yourself with the right people.
Absolutely. Think about how, I think it was 4 out of 10 students in a small robotics class at MIT went on to become astronauts.
That's amazing.
Or how one study found a direct correlation. The higher your best friend's IQ at age 11 or 12, the higher your IQ would likely be at age 15. We just absorb the qualities and often the habits of those around us.
It seeps in.
It does. The Solomon Asch experiment on conformity really hammered this home. The normal behavior of the group, the tribe, often overpowers the desired behavior of the individual. We are just wired to seek approval and praise.
That's such a powerful point about our innate social wiring. And a simple but I think profoundly effective technique in this category is reframing mindset.
Yeah.
This is about consciously changing phrases like, I have to I get to.
Oh, I like this one.
Yeah. For instance, instead of thinking, ugh, I have to wake up early for work, you reframe it to, I get to wake up early and pursue my goals today. It immediately shifts your perspective.
From burden to opportunity.
Exactly.
It truly transforms how you view the activity. Instead of saying, I need to go run in the morning, maybe reframe it as, it's time to build endurance and get faster.
Yeah.
Or saving money not as a sacrifice, but as building freedom and security for your future. These slight intentional mindset shifts can make seemingly hard habits feel much more attractive because you're associating them with positive experiences and, again, that desired identity.
Tying it back to identity.
Yeah.
Okay, that brings us smoothly to the third law. Make it easy. The science here is summed up by the classic Hebb's law. Neurons that fire together wire together. The more you repeat an activity, the more the actual physical structure of your brain changes, making it literally more efficient at performing that action. It's a physiological transformation.
Precisely. Habit formation is fundamentally about repetition and frequency, not just the passage of time. Our brains are incredible at optimizing for repeated actions, strengthening those specific neural connections until the behavior becomes almost automatic. This is why it's absolutely crucial to reduce the friction associated with your habits to make them as effortless as possible.
Reducing friction.
Yeah.
So minimizing the effort required.
Yeah.
Make good habits incredibly convenient. If your gym is on your exact route to work, you're significantly more likely to go because it doesn't add much cognitive or physical friction to your routine.
Less effort involved.
Right. Clear even references lean production in Japanese factories, which focused on eliminating all forms of waste to make actions easier, leading to vastly more efficient processes. We can apply that same principle to our lives.
And another powerful technique here is the 2-minute rule.
Yes, the 2-minute rule.
When you're starting a new habit, scale it down until it takes less than 2 minutes to perform. Instead of committing to read a book, make it read 1 page. Just start. Or do yoga for 30 minutes simply becomes take out my yoga mat. The goal isn't to accomplish the whole thing initially, but just to begin, to get the reps in, and to cross that invisible threshold between inaction and action.
I love that. And what's even better than making it easy? Automating it.
Yeah.
This involves investing in technology, maybe making one-time purchases that effectively lock in future good behavior.
Setting it up once.
Exactly. Think automatic bill payments, prescription refills, or even website blockers that prevent you from accessing distracting sites during work hours. James Clear himself reportedly used an assistant to reset his social media passwords every Monday.
Get out. Really?
Yeah, which logged him out on all devices for the entire week. Talk about a commitment device.
That is a brilliant example of a commitment device. Automating good habits frees up so much valuable mental energy that would otherwise be spent on willpower. However, it's important to recognize technology can also work against us here.
Oh, for sure.
Autoplay features on streaming services, for instance, make binge watching effortless. You actually have to exert more effort to stop than to continue. When the effort to act on unhelpful desires becomes effectively zero, you can find yourself slipping into impulses you later regret.
That leads us perfectly into the fourth law. Make it satisfying. Our brains, as Clear explains, evolved in what he calls an immediate return environment. Our ancestors needed quick payoffs for survival. Find food, eat it, feel satisfied. Simple loop.
Instant feedback.
Right. Modern society, however, is largely a delayed return environment. The benefits of good habits like dieting for long-term health or saving for retirement are often way off in the future.
Well, the costs are right now.
Exactly. Like skipping dessert or foregoing a purchase, those are immediate and in the present. This often means, unfortunately, that instant gratification usually wins out.
So to counteract this evolutionary mismatch, you absolutely need to turn instant gratification to your advantage. The vital thing in getting any habit to stick is to feel successful, even in a small way, immediately after performing it.
That immediate feedback.
Yes. It signals to your brain that the effort was worthwhile. Immediate rewards are essential because they keep your motivation alive until those larger, delayed rewards start to accumulate. This brings us to what Clear calls the cardinal rule of behavior change. What is immediately rewarded is repeated. What is immediately punished is avoided.
So simple, but profound.
Incredibly simple, yet profoundly powerful.
Okay, so one of the best practical ways to provide that immediate satisfaction is through habit tracking. Whether it's moving paper clips from one jar to another, using a digital tracker app, or just marking an X on a physical calendar.
Seeing the chain grow.
Exactly. Seeing your progress, that visual chain of completed actions, provides immediate proof and satisfaction. It keeps your focus on the process itself, not just the distant result. And that feeling of accomplishment is key.
Absolutely. However, we must also be aware of the potential pitfalls of measurement, famously captured by Goodhart's law.
Okay, what's that?
It basically states, when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. If you optimize solely for the number itself, like just getting a lower number on the scale, you might embrace unhealthy crash diets.
Right, sacrificing the actual goal.
Yes, we can become so focused on what we can easily measure that we inadvertently undervalue what's truly important, like genuine health, sustainable fitness, or learning for its own sake. It's a caution against becoming slaves to the metrics.
That's a really important caveat. So how do we ensure we stick to good habits, or maybe even add an immediate cost to breaking bad ones?
This is where an accountability partner or even a formal habit contract can be incredibly effective.
A contract, like written down.
Yeah, a habit contract is a verbal or often better written agreement where you explicitly state your commitment to a habit and, critically, the punishment if you don't follow through. You then enlist one or two accountability partners to sign off with you. Entrepreneur Brian Harris, for instance, used this to lose weight.
Oh, give us the details.
Okay, so if he missed his nutrition targets, he had to pay his trainer $100. If he failed to weigh himself, he had to give his wife $500 to use however she wanted. And if he forgot to run sprints, he literally had to wear his rival football team's hat to work.
No way. That's brilliant.
The more local, tangible, concrete, and immediate the consequence, the more likely it is to influence your behavior. It just bypasses that whole delayed gratification problem by making the punishment immediate.
That's a fantastic way to make those bad habits instantly painful and inject serious accountability. Okay, as we begin to wrap up this deep dive into atomic habits, let's touch on the long game, sustaining and evolving your habits. Because the reality is, mastery isn't always glamorous. It requires showing up consistently, even when things inevitably become a bit boring or routine.
Absolutely. And this is where Clear's Goldilocks rule becomes really essential.
The Goldilocks rule.
Yeah, the idea is that the sweet spot of desire motivation occurs at roughly a 50-50 split between success and failure. You need challenges of just manageable difficulty.
Not too hard, not too easy.
Exactly. To keep things interesting and fight off that pervasive enemy of boredom. This is how cravings are amplified. You're getting just enough winning to feel satisfied and competent, but also just enough wanting or challenge to stay engaged and avoid complacency. It's that delicate balance that keeps us hooked long term.
Finding that sweet spot.
Yeah.
And finally, a point that top performers across basically all fields swear by. reflection and review are absolutely vital.
Cannot overstate this.
From Kenyan runner Eliud Kipchoge, meticulously reviewing his training notes, to swimmer Katie Ledecky constantly analyzing her strokes. Consistent reflection allows us to honestly identify mistakes, pinpoint areas for improvement, and crucially, avoid self-deception.
That self-deception part is key. Without that disciplined review, it's so easy to make excuses to lie to ourselves, and we can't truly determine if we're making genuine progress or just spinning our wheels.
So true. So, as you, our listener, go about your day, maybe think about one small atomic habit you can implement today. Something to start voting for the person you truly want to become. Remember, this deep dive, and really all of Seek and Evolve, is ultimately about transformation through applied knowledge.
Yeah.
It's about bringing clarity, intention, and purpose into your daily life.
Take these insights, these laws, and just begin to build the identity you desire, one small atomic habit at a time. It's not just about what you do.
It's who you are becoming.
Precisely.
See you again on Seek and Evolve.